Hello and welcome. Unfortunately, we're recording today because our live Facebook event did not, so was challenged by the internet gods who don't seem to be on our side this morning. I'm Janina Fisher, and I have had the enormous good fortune to have been a part of the trauma field, which from 1989 on. You know, the trauma field was very controversial in 1989. It wasn't yet accepted that abuse and neglect or domestic violence, car accidents, things we take for granted as traumatic today, were not understood as traumatic then. I also had the great good fortune to study with Judy Herman as a postdoctoral fellow and to have become a supervisor and instructor at Bessel van der Kolk's clinic, just as the neurobiological revolution changed trauma treatment, but also changed psychotherapy. And here, of course, we're living in traumatic times. So understanding the impact of trauma is ironically even more important now than helping our clients with the impact of past traumatic events. The topic that I am going to be presenting in my webinar series, isolation and loneliness, emerged from the reports of my colleagues and my clients that most individuals seemed more impacted by the isolation of social distancing and sheltering in one's home than they were impacted by the fear of the virus. Very, very interesting, but not surprising report. I remember at 9/11, how many of my traumatized clients said, you know, the rest of the world is traumatized by this. This is just another day in the life for us. That's how our lives were. We woke up one morning and everything was demolished. Everything fell apart. Everything was horrifying. So the reports I hear are that most individuals who have trauma histories are taking the threat of the virus in stride, and they're struggling with the isolation and the loneliness and the sense that they have that it's about them, that if they hadn't been too stupid, too ugly, too something, and had not elicited all that abuse, they wouldn't be alone now. And of course, for many, the feelings of isolation have been there pre-COVID for many years. I have a client many of you have heard me speak about. I call her Annie, of course, not her real name. And that's what she says. She says, I feel this painful loneliness. I feel all alone. And she says, I feel all alone, despite living with a husband of 40 years, living with her son in an apartment attached to the home, despite having her godson and godchildren in her yard every day, and babysitting twice a week for a young niece who's just 2 years old. So the feelings of aloneness and isolation don't have to be logical. Many of our clients are legitimately very alone. When they shelter, there is no one to talk to. There's no one who knocks at the door and says, do you need something? In a very threatening world, that isolation is much, much more palpable and powerful because we're mammals and we're wired to seek others when we don't feel safe. And this is a time in history when very, very few people feel safe. That's how I came to develop this webinar. I am so looking forward to sharing it with you because we're going to talk about the different ways in which loneliness occurs, what thoughts and beliefs are attached that may make the loneliness more painful or less painful. We're going to talk about clients who have been isolating for years and now need contact more than ever, but can't reach out for it or don't have people to whom they can reach out. We're going to talk about all kinds of different interventions for helping those who are very isolated, very alone, feel on the outside looking in, blame themselves for those feelings of loneliness, which only makes them harder to experience. And then we're going to even talk about the loneliness. I'm just going to share this cartoon with you. The loneliness of those who are isolated with others. Most of us are not isolated alone, but sometimes it's very, very painful or even more painful to live with others but feel that they're not connecting to us or they don't understand, or their way of managing this situation is much more self-reliant than ours. So we have many, many things to talk about in this webinar series. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the dialogue that we can have about your cases, your situations, and how we can help ourselves and our clients through this incredibly difficult period in our history. I've lived many years, and this is the single most threatening and stressful period of history that I can recall in my lifetime. So we're going to be dealing with just one aspect of that, the way in which the measures necessary to protect our health result in a profound sense of aloneness and alienation. So I hope that you will join me. I am very much looking forward to our dialogue. And I believe that you'll be able to see a registration link somewhere near this video link. Look for it, and I do hope that we'll see you then.